The night was thick and heavy, the silence almost a living thing. Even the crickets seemed to hold their breath. I lay on my mat, unable to sleep. It was the silence, a silence that screamed of fear. My father was late. He had been gone since midday, tending his traps in the woods beyond the Whispering Creek. Usually the chirping of crickets and the rustling of leaves heralded his return. But tonight, there was nothing, just the oppressive quiet and the pounding of my own heart. Outside, the moon, a sliver of silver in the vast darkness, cast long, eerie shadows across our small village. Everything looked familiar yet distorted, as if even the night itself was holding its breath. The image of King Obaid's men haunted my thoughts. They had come just before midday, their shadows falling long and ominous across the parched earth. A shiver ran down my spine even now, remembering their faces, hard and unforgiving beneath their polished helmets. They rode horses the color of midnight, their hooves kicking up dust from the dry, cracked earth. Their leader, a tall, imposing figure with eyes like chips of ice, had called for my father by name. My father, his face etched with worry, had instructed me to stay inside. He had kissed my mother on the forehead, his touch lingering for a moment longer than usual. Then, with a last reassuring glance in my direction, he had joined the king's men. They had ridden off without a word, leaving behind a cloud of dust and a village holding its breath. No one dared to question the king's men, not after what happened to Old Man Hemlock. We were a simple folk, our lives governed by the rhythm of the seasons, our days spent tending our crops and livestock. Or at least that's how it used to be. The drought had changed everything. The once fertile lands lay barren and cracked, the sun beating down mercilessly. The river, our lifeline, had dwindled to a mere trickle. Our crops withered and died, our livestock grew thin and weak. Hunger gnawed at our bellies, fear gnawed at our hearts. Whispers of a divine curse began to circulate in hushed tones. The king, they said, had angered the gods with his cruelty and greed. The drought was their punishment, a sign that Obad was no longer fit to rule. I heard these whispers myself late at night, when my mother thought I was asleep. My father dismissed these whispers as dangerous nonsense, but even he couldn't hide the worry in his eyes. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that clung to me like a shroud. I knew deep down that something was terribly wrong. Driven by a force I couldn't explain, I decided to seek out my father. The journey to King Obaid's palace was long and arduous. Fear spurred me on. The palace loomed before me, a menacing silhouette against the dying light. It was a place of dark stone and even darker secrets, its high walls casting long shadows that seemed to stretch out and consume me. I crept through the shadows, my heart pounding in my chest. I slipped through an open gate, my breath catching in my throat at the sight that greeted me. There in the center of the courtyard was a platform, and on that platform lay a row of bodies. My blood ran cold. I recognized the rough-spun fabric of my father's tunic, the worn leather of his boots. I ran to him, my cries echoing in the silence. His face was frozen in a mask of terror, his eyes staring blankly up at the unforgiving sky. Clutching his lifeless hand, I noticed something glinting beneath his body. It was his hunting knife, the one he always carried with him, the one he had promised to teach me how to use. It was as if a part of me already knew that this was no ordinary drought, this was the king's doing. As the first rays of dawn pierced the darkness, a low rumble echoed through the village. The villagers, their faces etched with grief and fury, marched towards the palace armed with whatever they could find, pitchforks, axes, their bare hands. The rebellion was swift and brutal.